Okay, so today I'm going to show something a little bit new, something that I've only recently started experimenting with, but I feel confident enough in how much I know about it or how much I have experimented with it to go ahead and do a video on it. And that is the .atch editor. So I'm going to go in here. So the .atch editor is the file is .atch. It's also known as the attachment editor or the attachment file. And so what it does is this controls the attachments of every weapon in the game for each race. Now, there's also NPCs in here, but I wouldn't mess with those really. That considering why would you, as the player character, need to edit the attachment file of an NPC? So my race is Rothgar, so I'm going to start with this. Now, about .atch files. These files cover every weapon in the game, and they are racial files. So there's one file for each race. And this file contains, again, every weapon that you can attach, that is in the game, basically, that your character can use or can attach to their body. So what I have here, or what I already have, is this is a Newlith weapon from Sage. It's been scaled up a bit, and it is currently, or I have the attachment file that I've edited turned off at the moment. And this is just to demonstrate that this is what it looks like. So it kind of, you kind of have some messed up animation. The animations are weird. Right now the animation is also set to summoner animation, which I suppose I should start with changing that first, so you can see kind of what it'll look like with Sage's idle. So if I start with Sage's idle here, I'm just going to use Midlander, and I will replace, this is Summoner, so come down here, Summoner, Summoner's idle. Since it's a Sage weapon, I'm going to use Sage's idle. Apparently that did not actually replace it. Why is that not? Oh, because I need to select Rothgar. Let's do that. Okay, so as you can see here, the way the weapon is affixed, it's still affixed as if it's a book. So it appears here, and when I store it, it doesn't store right. It's just a big mess. So to fix this, I have to use the attachment editor. So for this, I'm going to show just the Rothgar, but this process is basically the same for each race. If you're going to do a weapon edited or a weapon attachment edit, I suggest doing all the races. If you ever want to play a different race, or if you're making a mod for other people, they're going to want their race included. So to make it so that the book, which is what the summoners use the Newlith's attachment locations. I'm going to go here first. Okay, so here's the so usually when it comes to this attachment file, the state 0 is your normal idle stance state. Whenever it's drawn, where it's drawn, where it sits when it's drawn. And I can show that here by showing that this shows that it's on the N_throw bone. That bone is, it's confused a lot, and the editor confuses it a lot of times for the N root bone. But in fact, most of the cases where something's binding to the quote-unquote root bone. Like, say when you have a summon weapon, if you do a summon weapon and one of the bind locations, I think it's bind location 0, and it's called the root bone. Well, that's actually incorrect. It's usually the end throw bone that it binds to. And to actually, let me show you what I mean. So if you ever take, I'm just taking a file. I like to just pull fast blade. So if I go in here and I add a, where is it? Object control. So if I have a position, you have stowed, right hand, and here it says root bone. That's not actually correct. The quote-unquote root bone is actually the n underscore throw bone. It's not quite the same. N underscore root is the root bone. That's the origin position of the character. This should say on N or the throw bone or something like that, but for the purposes of the object control, it kind of gives you an idea of where it's supposed to attach, but really it attaches to the N underscore throw bone. So, but yeah, that's what that means. That's why I say it's not quite labeled correctly. But come here. So what I have to do is I need to change the N, or this first state 0, on the book to match state 0 on the new list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this, come here to book, paste that in. I'll highlight the scale, paste that in. That should be 0. Highlight that, paste that in, highlight this, paste that in. I'm just doing this for all the fields. Highlight that, paste it in, 0, 0. Okay, so now let's see what it does when I draw. So now when I draw, the weapon's actually in the proper place. Now my movement stuff is all wrong, but you can see now that this is in its proper place, instead of like weird sideways and attached to the hand. But now I want to fix the store location, and that is usually going to be state 1. So I want to copy state 1 of the new liths to state 1 of the books. As you can see, state 1 has a different bone here than the new liths do. Sebo is usually a torso bone somewhere, and Kosi is usually some kind of hip or lower body bone. So that kind of gives me an idea of, okay, well this is probably the bone on the back that it attaches to. So I'm going to highlight this, paste it there, highlight that, paste it there, and I'm just going to do this for each one of these until they are perfectly matched or perfectly identical. And update. So now when my character shows up here, you can see it's attached on the back. So as far as the weapons go, this is just these weapons are just like a basic weapon replacement. I removed 2 of the model pieces to just make the 2 weapons because I had some issues with binders, but they're basically just new liths. I've replaced the weapon.pap file. That's why they animate like they do too. But that's a different video. This one I wanted to mostly focus on showing how you do a proper reattachment, basically. And so the process is pretty much copy the weapon that you want to copy from over the files for the weapon that you want to replace. And so that'll mean that if I replace this with any other new liths, or I use any other new liths to replace books with, they should work, as long as I do also the weapon.pap files, yada yada. And I have to do that for every single race. Some of the limitations, obviously, is that if there's ever an update where a weapon gets added, you have to go back in here and redo your edits. It's a file that has to be continuously updated. Sort of like if you do an action.pap edit, that has to, if there's ever a new addition or removal from action.pap, you have to go in and you have to update it. So this is one of those things that if you're looking to do a mod that you don't have to update often or you don't have to worry about very much, probably not an ATCH edit. This is an edit you kind of have to stay on top of, or at least be ready to get reports of it breaking or causing issues, because you may never know when a new kind of weapon gets added. And as you can see, a lot of weapons here, they are not labeled, or you don't know what they really are, or what they cover. Like some of these I don't recognize, but like WNG, I recognize this as the wings, like where wings attach, or things that are classified as wings, like the angel wings that I used for Draken animations. Or yeah, there's a lot in here that we don't have labeled, but we do know that they are summon weapons of some kind that are in the game. This can be things like a summon weapon used for an emote, something like the pigeon used for that one magician emote. That's a summon weapon, and when that got added, you would probably have to go in here. If you hadn't .atch edited, you'd probably have to go in here, fix the edit with the new file, because there's been changes to the files. So yeah, this is the kind of edit that you really need to be prepared to do a lot of future updates, a lot of future work when you're using this kind of edit. But yeah, that's how you can basically, quote unquote, perfect a weapon change between jobs. Otherwise, there's a lot of hassle with dealing with like how the weapon moves. There's a lot of limitations, but this gets around a lot of significant limitations to this type of mod. But yeah, enjoy.